All right. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is February 3rd, 1 o'clock. Welcome to the Finance Committee. We'll go ahead and start with introductions to my left.
Brittany Norris for the administration.
Colleen Hamsey, Council Research.
Mary Stefopoulos, Office of General Counsel.
Philip Peterson, Counselor's Office.
Kim Taylor, Council Auditor.
Ron Salem, Group 2 at Large.
Joe Carlucci, District 5.
Raul Ayres, District 11.
Will Lane, District 3.
All right, right in time.
Jacoby Pittman, District 10.
All right, we are good to go. So we'll go ahead and just kind of work through the agenda real quick, just do a quick run through, get everyone on the same page, and then we'll go to public comment. Looks like we have a few public comment cards. So item number 1 is deferred, item number 2 is deferred, number 3 is deferred, 4 is deferred, 5 we have neighborhoods amendments, and then we'll be moving that. 6 is action item, amend and move. 7, neighborhoods amendment. 8, amend and move. 9, amend and move. 10, action item, no amendments. 11, amend and move. 12 and 13, action items. 14, we have neighborhood substitute, auditor recommended amendments that we will likely take up separately and then roll them up into one finance substitute. 15 is up for withdrawal. Number 16 we'll take up first as number 1 on the agenda, followed by number 17, which we will take up second on today's agenda. And then 18, 19 are the last 2 action items, and then everything else is on second reading. So that's what we got. And Ms. Barbie, if you can hand me those public comment cards, we will go ahead and do that. 2 is good. All right. So first speaker card is Latavia Harris. Come on down and state your name and address.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Sorry about that. Latavia Harris, my address is on file. Today, I'm coming in support of the opioid model for our community, in the Eastside community. Again, how we've always stated, that model brings transparency, accountability, and responsibility. With that model, that gives the Eastside the greatest chance to survive. Because as they spoke yesterday, the process will be fair, it will be competitive, and just that's what we've been asking for the beginning, was the oversight, the shadowing, to make sure, because this stadium deal is very big to the East Side. And again, I want to say thank you to everybody who played a part in getting that to this table. But as East Side leaders, the opioid model puts us in the best advantage to succeed, because that way we have enough checks and balances in a system the same way the government runs with its checks and balances. A lot of respect to the IG for also noting safeguards that we stated early on in the beginning that were not there. But since we are here now, I am full support of the opioid model. Yesterday I did have a chance to hear Mr. Carlucci and Mr. Williams state how we need all of these subject matter experts. Understand me when I say that. You may have went to school for the experience, but if you haven't lived the experience. So please keep in mind when we're adding amendments to who we want to see on this board, the best thing is for the East Side is to use the people of our East and the East Side and all of its branches. And that opioid model and the way it's structured, I see 0% of failure with that model. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker, we have Kim Pryor.
Hi, my name is Kim Pryor. My address is 245 West 5th Street. I am here to speak to you today in support of the opioid model for the East Side's Community Benefit Agreement. There's been a lot of talk and discussion back and forth on which way would be best to handle these funds. But in my opinion, and also in the opinion of the Inspector General, keeping these funds in-house provides better oversight, better control, better transparency. I believe, and I may be misquoting him, but I believe that the Inspector General said that the previous Cultural Council model was ripe for fraud, waste, and abuse. We don't want that. We can't do that. We must do what's best for our taxpayer dollars. And the best thing to do here is to allow the city to have the oversight, allow the city to implement people on the board that have a vested interest in the Out East community. Those who've lived there, there are people that have lived on the East Side for generations. They have lived through all of this. They have seen the ups and they've seen the downs, and they're ready for some ups. And I'm telling you, this CBA money, if it is handled appropriately, can help this community become way up. And I implore each and every one of you to join with the Together Eastside Coalition Incorporated and move the CBA model that is modeled after the opioid model. And again, that's the best thing that we've got, and I think it's the best way to move forward. And I thank you, each and every one of you, for all the hard work you've put in on this. Thank you.
All right, next speaker we have John Witchy.
That's John White, and my address is on file.
Got it.
I was not supposed to be today. I'm a retired Air Force major, and I was going to relax today as part of my retirement, but Miss Eunice Barnum called me and asked me to come over to Spotwood. And what I witnessed was a 78-year-old homeowner get kicked out of her house this morning. It's just amazing to me that we're in America, and I retired from the great Air Force, United States Air Force, and here we are putting 78-year-olds on the street. It baffles me that we're where we are when we got all these millions and billions of dollars in this city, and we got a new homeless person on the street today. You hear the passion in my voice because it's passion. You got a homeless initiatives committee that's getting ready to spend $250,000 in for a study, for a plan. $250,000 for a damn plan. When I got people this weekend that called me that needed a place to stay because it was cold this weekend. So I had some people that I know that we pay for them to be in a hotel. But you got a commission that's getting ready to spend $250,000 on a plan, another plan, and then what's going to happen? It's going to be put on the shelf when we've got people calling, doing cold weather, hot weather, whatever, needing things, and if it has spent $250,000 on a plan. It's the Homeless Initiatives Committee. Please stop them from doing that. They've got. I recommend that they spend $10,000 to get 2 college students, and spend the rest of the $240,000 to help people so they can stop calling me. You know, we got people. It's 2 minutes. Good.
No, you had your 2. You had your 2 minutes. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, I thought you get 3 minutes.
That's okay. Sorry.
All right.
All right. Next speaker we have Ariane Randolph.
Good morning. Ariane Randolph, address 620 Odessa Street, historic East Side, fourth generation resident. So I've been engaged in the CBA process since the beginning. That would be November of 2023. And I really want to thank you all for your hard work. I know it's been a lot of difference of opinions that you guys have heard. All of them are important, and everybody's passionate. And I affirm us to continue that work in a collaborative effort. I want to advocate for the tax increment financing district. I'm asking for the council and all of the parties that be to really consider adding language into the ordinance that says that we can explore that. I'm not saying, hey, let's approve it. I'm just asking for language to be included into the ordinance that says that the powers that be, the city, the community can continue to explore that tool. This is a tool that was talked about from the beginning of the process. It was also supported by different individuals, and I'm really asking for language to be incorporated into the current ordinance that says, hey, we can explore it, we can study it together, we can see what that looks like. Again, all of the community has advocated for different models. You guys have chosen the one that you feel most comfortable with. And the financing, tax instrument financing tool would just go in to support that. It will be in-house. And so I'm just asking for language to be in the ordinance that helps to expand the work and the investment that you guys have put into place. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next we have Nigel Kahn.
Good afternoon, and thank you for coming. My name is Nigel Khan, and my address is on file, and I get to serve proudly as the Executive Director of Florida Avenue Main Street, which is the first designated Main Street responsible for reactivating the commercial corridor in the historic East Side. I come to you today to support, one, the historic East Side CBA organization model that was approved several weeks ago or several months ago, which was the original kind of cultural council model. So I still support that model, and I really hope that we can get back to that. But again, as Ariane said, there's definitely differences of opinion about how we move forward, and we are just committed to making this work however we move forward. So we thank you for the work that you have committed today. I also want to ask that the committee continue exploring the tax increment financing, the TIF model. As you all know, there has been years of disinvestment in the historic East Side, in the East Side, especially in the commercial corridor and in the residential components of that. And we believe that the TIF has promised to help build that investment. Several years ago or several months ago, when a committee came out or group came out to tour the historic East Side and see the work that was being done, to see the disparities in that community, I believe someone in that tour said that this was $1 billion problem. And so, again, because of the years of disinvestment, we really need to consider and to explore this tax increment financing model, and we hope that you include that in the language of the legislation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next two speakers marked that they do not wish to speak. Don Curley, in support of the opioid model, and Robin Sinazal, I support the substitute for 2026-0036. With that, there's no other speaker cards, so we'll go to the agenda. Item number 16 on page 11, committee members, 2026-0039. Need a motion on the amendment. We have a motion to second on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. We have a motion to second on the bill as amended. No one in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
Five yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0039. Item number 17, 2026-0040. All right, we have a motion to second on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. The bill is amended. Motion to second on the bill as amended. No one in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
Five yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0040. All right, turning back to page 2, which is technically page 1, but page 2, item number 1, 2024-627 is deferred. Item number 2, 2024-966 is deferred. Item number 3, 2025-361 is deferred. Item number 4, 2025-775 is deferred. Item number 5, 2025-090. We have a motion and a second on the neighborhoods amendment. Can someone please explain the amendment?
Through the chair of the committee, the Neighborhoods Amendment clarifies the funding source for this legislation is the JIA CRA investment pool earnings. It revises the appropriation to remove the $200,000 for United Way and then also the just over $1,030,000 that was set to go to the Budget Stabilization Reserve and transfers all $1,230,034 to the Sterrett Road, Yellow Bluff Road intersection improvement CIP project. Will include CIP amendment language, attach a revised BT to reflect that revised appropriation, attach a CIP sheet to include as a new exhibit, and then correct various scriveners.
All right. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. All right, we have a motion and a second on the bill as amended. Councilmember Landon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and through the Chair, both to my colleagues and the administration, I'll support this. I'm really glad to see that the litter campaign money was kept in there. If we could just back up, if you recall during budget season, there was a $1.0 million placeholder for litter campaign. No one could tell us what it was. I think I made the amendment to remove it out of the budget. But this is kind of what I want to see ahead of time for next year's budget, right? Mr. Farrar came to me and he went through specifically 7 different line items that added up to $400,000. He educated us on it, and he got us to be supporters. And so that's as we start heading into next year's budget, like any of these placeholder dollars, just as good and well so they can be defined to get our support and understanding ahead of time. And then also just want to thank Mr. Farrar. I mean, he has been a machine out there, not just my district, but 14 districts with everything he is noticing, everything he's doing to help. So I think this is going to further help him and his team just making Jacksonville to look even better. So appreciate his support for our city on that as well.
All right. And I can definitely echo those sentiments. Mr. Ferraro has been in our district sending us pictures and notifications like every week. So I think that is definitely something we were looking for, prior to the budget. It was, hey, man, let's kind of see what's out there. And he's done above and beyond for that. So absolutely thrilled to see that in here right now. So with that, there's no other speakers in the queue. So let's open the ballot, record your votes.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-900. Item number 6, 2026-003. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. The bill as amended. Motion and a second on the bill as amended. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-003. Item number 7, 2026-0004. All right, we have a motion and a second on the neighborhoods amendment. Can someone please explain the amendment?
Through the chair of the committee, neighborhoods voted to include a provision that any expenditure in excess of $100,000 will require city council approval. The legislation as introduced did not have any limitations and allowed parks to go and spend all dollars that were received, also correcting various scriveners.
All right. No speakers in the queue. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. The bill is amended. We have a second. All right, motion and a second on the bill as amended. No one in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0004 as amended. Item number 8, 2026-0030. Motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. The bill is amended. Motion and a second on the bill as amended. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0030. Item number 9, 2026-0031. Motion and second on the amendment. No one in the queue. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the amendment carries. Motion and second on the bill as amended. Councilmember Salem, you're recognized. Okay. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0031. Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. With this $25,000 we're still about, I think, $800,000 or $900,000 short of completing this grant, and I'm going to introduce legislation to use the budget stabilization fund to complete this grant, so we're done with it.
Okay.
I think that's a better use of the budget stabilization fund than anything would be to complete this grant.
Yeah. Well, it's coming due, believe this year. Is that correct? Next year?
26, 27.
26, 27, right. So it's going to have to get paid one way or the other.
I just rather us complete it.
Correct.
Council.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll be on the lookout for that. Has it been introduced?
It'll be introduced tomorrow, excuse me.
Okay. Okay, cool. We'll be on the lookout for that. Councilwoman Pittman, you ready? Next one? Okay. Councilmember Peluso, we just wanted to welcome you, recognize you for coming. Thank you so much. Can we get this man a nameplate, please? just kidding. But yeah. All right. So we're on item number 10. Item number 10, 2026-0032. We have a motion and a second on the bill. No discussion. Or Ms. Pittman, are you on this bill? Yes. Can you go ahead and say that on the mic? Can you go ahead and say that on the mic?
If we can ask Mr. Burkott to please come forward. I want to ask a question.
Sure.
Good afternoon. Brian
How you
Burkett.
doing?
Good.
I just wanted to know what are some of the undertakes for the waterways? Are there specific grants for this?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
The question is, there are grants for this legislation, and I want to know what are the specific grants?
Yes. So this is for the Florida Inland Navigation District grant. And the three projects that were identified for this coming year are the Downtown Dredging Project, Sisters Creek Dock Transient Facilities, and then TK Stokes Boat Ramp Bulkhead Replacement Project.
Okay.
So the first two are construction phase projects. So we previously received the grants for the design phase. So just continuation of those to move forward. And then the third one, TK Stokes, is a new design project that was identified by the Waterways Commission.
Okay, the design to do what on that one?
Replace the bulkhead.
Okay.
The bulkhead is, I think, 40-something years old and showing some signs of early failure. So we're just planning ahead to take care of that.
Gotcha. So do you have like a listing of projects that need to get done, and these are the most critical ones?
That's correct. Yes, we maintain a list within the Parks Department that staff identifies needs and opportunities throughout the year, and we also get comments that come in from the citizens and through Waterways Commission. We continue to maintain a list of needs and also opportunities. And a few years ago, we did a holistic plan looking at all of our waterway access sites to identify needs and opportunities. So we have a prioritized list, and every year when we develop our recommendations, we take the staff recommendations to the Waterways Commission and then vet those through them, and we discuss the pros and cons and which ones should be rise to the top. So we do have a process, and we do maintain a list of alternative projects as well.
I'd like to have a meeting with you because I don't want to take up any more time, but I'm just concerned about some of the projects on the north side, Reebok, Trout River side. So I'd like to talk to you
Certainly.
about those. All right,
Yep,
thank
anytime.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Think we did move the bill, right? We moved the bill. Okay. No other speakers in the queue. Let's open the ballot. Record your vote.
Five yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0032. Item number 11, 2026-0033. All right, we have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. Move the bill as amended. All right, we have a motion and a second on the bill as amended. No one in the queue. Open the ballot, record your vote.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0033. Item number 12, 2026-0034. All right. Motion is second. No one in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0034. Item number 13, 2026-0035. All right, we have a motion and a second on the bill. Councilmember Lannon, are you in the queue?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So we talked about this one a little bit in the TEU. And just to remind everyone that this project, we increased it from 27 to 44 million last year. I won't have Ms. Sickler come up again, but she did affirm that just given where they are with the project, this will be the final time they come back and ask for money, because I forget what percent complete they are, but they're getting close. But again, it has gone from 27 to a little over 45 million now. So just want to point that out, that it has been greatly increased versus what we originally thought it would be a couple years ago. But this is the last tranche of money that we should be allocating for it.
All right, no other speakers in the queue. With that, we'll go ahead and open the ballot. Record your votes.
Five yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0035. Item number 14, 2026-0036. We have a motion and a second on the neighborhood substitute. Can someone please explain the substitute?
Through the chair to the committee, the substitute adopts the opioid model for distributing the Eastside grants. You might recall that there was discussion at the special committee on which model to take, and the substitute adopts the opioid model, provides for oversight by the Grants and Contract Compliance Division rather than the mayor's office, provides for a goal of qualifications of committee members with experience in the economic development / workforce development, affordable housing, workforce housing, or the mitigation of homelessness. It's not a requirement, just a goal for those board members. And then lastly, revises the eligibility criteria to require a grant applicant to be in existence for 2 years for the initial year of funding, and then 3 years for every year thereafter.
All right, Councilmember Peluso, are you on the substitute?
Through the chair, I did have a few amendments, but is that going to be after the substitute?
Yeah, we're going to take up,
Papoulos?
yeah, right. We're going to take up the substitute and then the auditor's recommended.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that was my understanding from our discussion of the agenda, that you were going to do the substitute, you go over the auditor recommended amendments, and then entertain any other amendments.
All right, sounds good. Councilmember Salem, are you on the substitute? Okay, well, let's take the vote. Okay, cool. All in favor of the neighborhood substitute signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The substitute passes. Now we're looking for a motion on the auditor recommended amendments.
Move the auditor recommended amendments.
All right, motion is second on the auditor amendments. Can someone please explain these amendments?
Through the chair of the committee, the recommended amendments are to clarify the terms of the Eastside Grants Committee members for the initial appointments. There's some language that our office, OGC, and research have been going through on another instance, and so just want to get that clarified. Include in a section in the bill identifying that the city's administrative costs, now that this is going to be operated under the Grants and Contract Compliance Division, that the cost for those administrative costs will be a component of the city's annual allocation, just like it was going to be under the Cultural Council model, but under that model, a specific dollar amount was defined. In this case, council will approve the administrative costs annually as you approve the budget. Thirdly, including a provision in the case of excess funding within one of the 4 categories, if there's not enough grant applicants, that funding can roll to another category in which there's not enough funding to fulfill the grant applicants for those that meet the minimum required score. This is what PSG does, and so just wanted to make that recommendation. Fourth, including past performance as a subcomponent of the evaluation criteria. That was something that the special committee adopted. Going back through the legislation, we realized we missed that. Number 5, clarifying funding for the 25-26 fiscal year will be combined with the funding for the 26-27 fiscal year. And the reason for that is when we look back at the timing, this committee is already getting started late for the 26-27 year. They should have on it. I mean, obviously they don't exist, but under normal circumstances, they would have already begun that planning process. So the $4 million that was approved in 25-26, just combine that with the 26-27, and as they begin that process, allocate those dollars in the 26-27 fiscal year. Number 6, including a provision that capital grants will be paid out upon completion. That just mirrors what the special committee recommended, clarifying that for-profits can apply for the funding. Once again, that's a special committee recommendation. And correcting the date of the initial scoring for the grants be completed by November 1st, 2026 to coincide with the time frame that's outlined in the substitute.
All right. So thank you for that explanation. Is anyone speaking on the recommended amendment? Okay, Councilmember Arias, you're recognized.
All right, thank you, Chair. Mr. Peterson, so the line item number 3 on the auditor's recommended amendments, roll over to the other categories. I'm not a big fan of that one, and I'll tell you guys why. We look at PSG and we see how some categories, there are entities that get funded multiple times. I want to say it was the work that we did prior year where some entities were getting funded on each category and then double funded on the same categories. We removed that. Now they can only get funded once. And so that's good to go now. What I don't want is one category to lose funding and go to another category. And then the next year, somebody needs more money from that specific category that we defunded. And now we have to try to make up for it. So what I would suggest is if the money hasn't been used for that category, I would recommend for it to roll over to the next year to the same category. Otherwise, we're really choosing which category and which part of the neighborhood or the community we want to essentially fund, where all parts are essential. So maybe this year we may not need 100% for homeless mitigation in that part, but maybe in 3 years we will, and then we're not going to have any money for it. So if we just keep those dollars in those same categories, I think it just makes perfect sense rather than just rolling it over to something and then we say, oh, well, we don't have any more money because we use it all for this category next year. So that's one. And then the second thing is for number 5, Mr. Peterson, just to clarify, we have $4 million allocated this year. Obviously, this committee, this whole board has started pretty late as it is. Once they get structured, they're going to have a few months to do the work. I doubt they're going to use all $4 million. So are you saying that they cannot use any of the $4 million this year, or you're saying that they can use some of it and the rest will roll over to next year?
Through the chair to Councilmember Arias, so I'll attack that in 2 different ways. First off, based on comments made by the administration yesterday, I think that they will come back to you at some point to appropriate part of that $4 million for staffing costs in the current year. However, given the time frame that's laid out where the board or the committee has to make a request to council on the percentages of the split between the 4 categories, the timing in which they have to make a request to the mayor's office for the amount to be included in next year's budget, the holding of the workshops in May, the opening of the applications, and then scoring those applications, I don't see an instance where any of the $4 million for grants would be allocated in the current fiscal year. And so that was our basis for our recommendation to just couple that, if you will, with the amount that's approved for the 26-27 budget.
All right, thank you, sir. One more thing, Mr. Chair. So we have a commitment. We have $40 million over 7 years. We already have $4 million out, so we have 6 years left. So that's an average. We have $36 million that's an average of $6 million per year. So, Mr. Peterson, just to confirm, we will establish the department, the oversight, whatever it costs us, $250,000, same as the OPO model, I'm assuming. And then the remaining funds will carry over to next year, but the administration can still also fund a little bit more next year. So let's say they fund another $4 million, they'll have a total of $7.8 million roughly to use, is what you're saying. Got it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. And did you want to get any further clarification on number 3? There was a lot of conversation there, but nothing.
Sure. Yeah, through the chair. So what I would recommend is removing number 3 and changing the language to say it will carry over. If it's not used, it will carry over to next year's appropriations for that same category. I just want to treat every category the same. I don't want to overfund or defund any categories because they're all just as important. But every year we have different initiatives, and every year there are different needs in the community. So I think we need to just fund the categories how we stated, how we did the work in the community, in the special committee. And then if year number 3 is a year for that category to be maximized, then we maximize it that year. So that's my only thought on that. So it will be to change the language to have it roll over to the next year for that same category. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Stefopoulos, did you have something to add on this point, or?
Yeah, so when Councilmember Arias first discussed that particular item, he mentioned the PSG process. This is modeled after what PSG currently does. So what happens is if they don't get enough applicants in one category and there's money remaining, if they have another category where they had more applicants than they had money, they're moving the money into that category so they can fully fund additional grants in another category, so they get the benefit of being able to disperse the entirety of the appropriation. And then there is a provision in here that at the end of the day, if, with or without that provision, the money that might be left at the end of the grants award cycle does roll over into the next year. It's not funded category specific, but it does roll over. But that is how that model works for PSG, and that was the intent here. I just wanted to give you that additional background.
That suffice?
Well, that does suffice. The thing is that just because it's done that way in PSG doesn't mean it has to be done this way. We were actually going to have conversations through the Doge Committee regarding CSG and PSG. A year ago, we changed the PSG model because people were getting double funded in the same categories. That conversation is not done yet. So I don't think we need to model everything as a PSG. What I will say is, and you brought up a great point, whatever carries over to the next year doesn't necessarily go to that same category. It just carries over to the actual entity. So that changes things a little bit, because my idea was to have it carry over to the same category. But if that's not the case, then I don't think that it makes sense. What I don't want, though, is because in PSG, I mean, we've seen it from different entities that have came during the finance budget hearings that they missed out on funding, or they didn't get it because of 1 point, or maybe they even scored higher than other entities in a different category, yet they didn't get funded, and we're still allocating more dollars to other categories. I think there's some sort of bias, when it comes to moving money from a different category to another category to fund more people in those categories. This is all crazy talk. It sounds like me listening to myself sounds crazy, but the facts are the facts. A lot of people are saying they're not getting funded, and they're scoring higher than other people, and then I just think if we have a category and we say we're putting $10 to that category, $10 needs to stay in that category. And if only 3 people apply, then those 3 people to get it. If 10 people apply, then it gets divided over 10 people. That funding is for that category. That's why we created these categories. Otherwise, what's the purpose of having categories? So, thank you.
All right. Councilmember Salem, did you want to comment on this? I know you're on the queue for other items too, but if you had something that you wanted to add.
No, on this particular item,
Okay.
I just disagree with my colleague. If you do not have enough applicants based on the dollar amounts that we've put limits on in that category, I want that money to be spent that year. So therefore, you can move that money to another category with the board's approval and such to fund more projects in another category. That doesn't mean that it does not change it for the next year. Then you reestablish the categories, you put whatever money you want to put in it. What this does is allows the money to go out that particular year if there are not enough applicants in one of these categories. To me, this is the best case scenario. And then next year, they set them up whatever way they want to. This will allow those dollars potentially to go out in that year and not just sit there. So, I had extensive discussions with the auditors and OGC on this particular one. I think it makes sense. I'd rather personally leave it just like it is. But, that's why we have a democracy.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Arias, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. So to your point, Mr. Salem, Mary brought up a great point that if it gets rolled over to the next year, it won't go to the same categories. So that's why I'm like, I'll retract my statement. Had it been able to roll over to the same category the following year, then that's what I would like. But if it doesn't do that, then I guess I would just rather the money be rolled over to something that could be put to use that same year. So I agree with you on that part, which is why I'll retract what I said. So thank you.
All right. Good to go. Anyone else in the queue? Ms. Pittman, are you in the queue for the recommended amendments? Okay. Yep, you're right. Go ahead. You're recognized.
Thank you. A couple of things in terms of, one, with the conversation that you just had regarding the different categories. I want to know if there was any discussions with the businesses and the individuals that are in these categories. Did we get any feedback from them in terms of how it's set up, what they feel is good for the community? Because a lot of times we make decisions without getting input, regardless of how we vote. And so I want to be fair in the process because we are impacting businesses and people's lives that live in that community. Unfortunately, I didn't have an opportunity to participate in everything, but I think, reading the recommendations today give me some pause to just ask some questions about how this is going to be set up and the input that's important, because you don't want people to feel like, okay, you putting it, we have access to this money, you're putting it in our community, but at the end of the day or at the end of the finish line, we ain't really had no input. Not really. So, yeah, can you just help me out on that?
Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you. Through the chair to Ms. Pittman. Keep in mind there are 4 categories that the community and everybody agreed upon. The dollar amounts in each category are decided by the board, which represents the community.
Mm-hmm.
So if they want to put, the percentage of funding.
So through the chair to Councilmember Salem and Councilmember Pittman, so just like the Public Service Grants Council, the 4 categories came from the supplemental CBA. So we're locked into those because those came out of the community benefits agreement with the Jaguars. Mm-hmm. So those are that we just pulled those from the agreement and made those the 4 categories. So annually what occurs is the board will make a recommendation as to the percentage of funding that should be allocated to each category based on their understanding of what the needs of the community would be in each of those areas. And then that comes to the city council for approval so that can be done before they go into the budgeting process with the mayor's office.
So the committee actually makes the decisions?
They make a recommendation based on the 4 categories are set because they're part of our contract with the Jaguars. Right. They make a recommendation as to if you allocate this much money, 25% goes to each one, or 33% here, or 20% there. They make that recommendation for the council's approval. And then they would award grants based on those allocations once approved by council. So
let's just say that those percentages may not work in those categories. As you said, you may not spend as much in one category. Are those percentages, can you change those, or make recommendations in the following year to change it if it's needed?
Through the chair to Councilmember Pittman, the percentages are adopted annually before each grant cycle. Okay. So to the extent that they might learn from one grant cycle, we didn't need as much here, we didn't see as many applications here, but we saw a lot more over there. Okay. They can make a different recommendation the following year.
Okay, I'm good with that. The other thing I wanted to ask, and I bring this up every time, regarding the reimbursement. I don't know, one of the grants we said, that wasn't asked in the very beginning. When you're talking about the different categories, and I've seen this even in the nonprofit industry, the organization can do the work. And if they're adding on or expanding, sometimes they need funding to start out, or they need that funding to maybe get a line of credit to make sure that they can do the work. And so I don't know if there's been any discussion about that, because, I guess one of my concerns too, where I see past performances. So does that mean anybody applying for funding, if they have not done it, but they have aspirations and maybe they've done it in maybe something else and maybe not where they're getting ready to open up, is that being considered? Because if not, if you have new people who are applying for the money, right, and they don't have an opportunity to do it because you have this provision that you have to have past performances, So I guess I'm asking if there's someone that's new that may not have, let's just say if they're willing to open up, this is crazy, a bowling alley over there, but they may not have it open up the bowling alley before. Is that considered or?
You want us to get clarification on that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Who can clarify as far as like new organizations coming in with past performance?
Through the chair to Councilmember Pittman. So currently there's a requirement that the entity have been in existence for at least 2 years before they would qualify to apply for a grant through this program. And based on the neighborhood's substitute, that would increase to 3 years after the first grant application cycle. So to the extent that they have past performance in general as an organization, they could supply that information.
Mm-hmm.
If they've managed the program or initiative that's that they're requesting additional grant funding for, then they would reference the past performance of that specific program or initiative as far as addressing that in their grant application. But they have to have been in existence for at least the 2 years for that first grant cycle. So to the extent that they can articulate past performance in general as an organization, that's an option. Always better if they're proposing to fund a program that's been in existence and they can articulate the past performance of that specific program. But for instance, for capital projects, if it's generally going to be a new project, potentially, if it is a new project, they're not going to have past performance on that specific capital project. But if they've undertaken other capital projects and there's requirements with respect to, they have to show that they have a history and experience within what they're looking to be funded on, then they would show that the performance or the accomplishments of those other projects.
It's just only my concern. I just don't want to handcuff anyone who would like to participate because we have so many guidelines or hoops that people have to jump. Mm-hmm. I think, having a category where if it is someone new that would like to participate and they may not have the 2 or 3 years that you might need, but they can do the work. You won't know they can do the work until they have the capital to do it. I mean, that's just kind of like small businesses, that we look at. We all have opportunities to get resources if needed, but if you have someone who lives in that community who wants to participate and they can't participate because they have to have all of these categories or check the box for everything before they are approved, I'm just saying I'm looking out. Y'all know I look out for the people. So I want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to participate, whether they have the experience or not, but leave a legacy that Eastside has. And that's all I'm saying. I just want to make sure that we're covering all of the boxes, checking all of the boxes, and nobody falls between the cracks and come back here at City Hall and say, well, I ain't really have an opportunity because y'all had too many guidelines that I could never meet or I could never reach. But if I'm able to get these resources, mm-hmm. I can have an opportunity to be a small business, and to be where I want to be in the next 5 or 6 years. So that's my only concern.
Yep, and I'll just add clarity on that, and then I think we're ready to vote on it. But yeah. I think it's just a safe guardrail, and it's by no means do we want to exclude people, but we do want to protect those organizations that have been doing it for 2, 3, 5, 10 years. Like, they do have a proven track record, so we want to kind of protect them a little bit too, but not just have a blanket like, hey, we're trying to exclude everybody that just all of a sudden showed up and says we can do it too. They very likely can, but I think before you get to the point of getting city dollars, like they can go raise money and do other types of funding, but as soon as they ask the city for dollars, there is a little bit of an extra guardrail there all the time. Yeah. So,
and I agree with what you're saying. It's kind of like JSEB.
Right.
We give those small businesses an opportunity, and when they get contracts with the city of Jacksonville, a lot of times they could use that and leverage it. And I guess what I'm saying, this is not that much difference to be able to give small businesses an opportunity and people who live in that area.
Understood.
That's all.
All right. So Are we, Ms. Stavropoulos, whoever, where are we at on the auditor's recommended amendments? I think we got every committee member's questions answered. We moved it. We have a second.
That is correct. So
Okay.
to the extent you want to take a vote on it, and then at the end, we would just ask Mr. Chair if we could roll those into the substitute to create a finance substitute.
Okay. Councilmember Peluso, are you have any questions on these auditor recommended amendments, or you still have your own amendments?
I do have my own, but I actually do want to speak a little bit to kind of the point that was made a moment ago. And one of my questions is about a capital project. So if you are, let's say I own land on the corridor, right, and I do want to build a bowling alley. That's quite a good example, actually. So now can I use my land as collateral in saying that is an asset that I have in order to make sure that I have the ability to leverage private land as a way to get dollars from the CBA so I can build my bowling alley? That seems to be something, because that way you're not an entity that's been around for 10 years. You're just someone who's owned that land for arguably 50 years and have been waiting to be able to develop it. Like, that would be available, and I see folks talking. I just want to make sure that would be available to us, because that is going to be something that gets brought up.
Is there someone that wants to answer that question after they confer?
Because that's the understanding of what a capital project is in my eyes, and I just want to make sure that's the case.
Is this a OGC question or an auditor question? Mr. Peterson.
So through the chair to Councilmember Peluso, in making this recommendation, past performance was one of the evaluation criteria adopted by the special committee. So in taking the substitute that was handed out at NCS yesterday and the bill as filed, our office noticed a couple of these items that were not carried over to the sub. So that was the only reason to include past performance. I think the scenario you describe is something that necessarily wasn't contemplated by the special committee, and so to the extent that it would need to be addressed, I don't think that it's included in the legislation as it stands currently.
Chair, but through the chair, so past performance was meant for the grantees, for the nonprofits or for the entities that are applying, but not necessarily for someone who is a landowner who's looking for a capital project. Correct?
So through the chair to Councilmember Peluso, it's a scoring criteria. So in the mind of the person who is scoring the grant application, past performance can be seen in a multitude of different ways. So I think it just will depend on how they perceive past performance as it relates to that specific application.
Okay.
All right. So we have no other speakers in the queue. All in favor of the auditor's recommended amendment, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. Well, we're going to go ahead and roll up neighborhood substitute and the auditor's recommended amendments into the finance substitute. And before we move the bill as substituted, we'll entertain Councilmember Peluso for the first time on any amendments. And also welcome Councilmember Diamond. Thank you for joining us.
And George.
And George.
Thank you, Chair. So some of these amendments I talked with Ms. Stavropoulos about yesterday. The first one is I want to make sure, because of the categories that we have, economic development is one of them. And I just want to make sure that in the bill we say economic development to include blight removal and home repair. That is economic development. And so I just want to make sure that is clearly stated within the language of what economic development is, because my concern is that we may have different people who don't define economic development to be those things, because affordable housing and workforce development would not include either of those issues. And then
say that one again. We'll take these up one by
sure.
one. Economic development.
So define
to include it.
Economic development to include blight removal and home repair.
Blight removal and home repair. Okay. Here's where we're at. I guess you're asking for someone on the committee to make a motion on that. Ms. Stavropoulos, do you have something to add before we get into a motion and debate on legality or anything? Or yes? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, through the chair to the committee, and as Mr. Peluso indicated, we had some discussion on this yesterday, and I expressed a concern that economic development in the traditional sense, which is it's not a defined term in the supplemental CBA, but it is the term used for that category in the CBA, that in the past, I could not identify, and the auditor's office could not identify any precedent where we have funded an initiative or a project for blight removal. We didn't discuss home repairs specifically with respect to economic development, where it was considered economic development. So I have a concern. I've reached out to John Sawyer and Joelle Dillard in our office to talk this through with them a little bit, because they're in our government operations division and they handle the contracts on a regular basis. But I have a concern that you're hyperextending what economic development is beyond the scope of the intent of the supplemental CBA with the Jaguars by adding those types of initiatives as part of what would be considered economic development. And again, we weren't able to establish any precedent where we've funded with city funds programs or initiatives like blight removal or home repair as an economic development initiative.
Okay, so that kind of leaves us with a motion to, or we just, yeah, we're looking.
It's up to a member of the committee if they wanted to move that as an amendment to add that as part of a definition of economic development. If you don't get a motion or a second, then you would move on. There was no motion made, Ms. Pittman.
I'd like to make a second on there I'd like to make a motion. I'm sorry.
All right, Councilmember Pittman has made the motion that Councilmember Peluso has said. Do we have a second? Seeing no second.
Can I second it too?
Unfortunately not.
I'm going to second it for conversation. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second on economic development, including blight removal and home repair with, let's go back here. Hold on. All right. So who is on the queue for the Peluso number 1 amendment? All right, Councilmember Arias, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I just think it's the right thing to do to have a conversation, especially when somebody that doesn't have the committee to do this, to introduce it. So I will not support it, though. I don't think economic development has anything to do with home repair or blight. However, home repair could probably fall under affordable housing and blight could fall under homelessness. I don't know, but we just went over Doge committee and we talked about what Alpharetta is doing when it comes to blight. And I think there's so many other funding sources that we could allocate towards that I don't want to take anything away from what the true purpose of what economic development does, especially for a part of town that needs an infusion of economic development. I don't want to touch it. I don't support it. I think we need to bring jobs, commerce to that area is what the economic, to me, my definition is. Maybe Mr. Fopoulos, maybe I'm incorrect in that definition or a train of thought, but jobs and commerce, that's kind of what the essence of economic development is. So I don't want to touch that at all. I want to be able to support small businesses when it comes to economic development, not people using it to do home repairs. It doesn't make sense. So for that reason, I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
Capital projects would be included in that as well.
Okay. Councilmember Diamond, are you in the queue for the Peluso amendment on the actual bill? Okay. Councilwoman Pittman, are you on the Peluso
I am. I want to talk to, I have a question to Councilman.
Okay. Yep, through the chair to Mr. Peluso.
Through the chair.
There you go.
Through the chair.
No worries.
Through the chair. Councilman, I want to just ask you, I'm sure you had reasoning for that, and you've had an opportunity to even talk to the people that live in the community, as well as you, the council person of that community, so you know what your community needs. And I think this overall initiative is to be able to be very inclusive. And of course, economic development means a lot to different people. So can you just share a little bit more light on there and why you think it would be an asset?
Through the chair to Councilmember Pittman, thank you for the question. No, yeah, so one of my concerns when meeting with members of the East Side, right, there's a lot of things that are discussed about how to make sure Florida Ave gets the corridor gets the growth and development that it needs, and then there's a lot of seniors who live in the community. So the home repair program is incredibly helpful to make sure that people are able to remain in place and live in their homes. And so when discussing how to make sure we are able to put dollars into those categories, I just want to make sure whether we call it capital, whether we define it as such, We need to make sure it's defined in this piece of legislation. Now that we're going with this model, I am very concerned it's going to be too stringent to the point that you made earlier. So let's make sure we allow for different things to be put in here so that by year 1 and year 2, when there's people on the body trying to make a home repair program happen, or to make sure that we're doing litter removal and blight removal, which if you go out east, there's a ton of trash everywhere and stuff like that. That is a economic, like, if I'm going to put a business there, you've got to, through my colleague, Councilmember Arias, you've got a business in a different strip mall. If it was covered in trash, you probably wouldn't want to put your business there. So like, it is an economic development tool. And so I just want to make sure that we know how to make sure we could fund these things that I know are of very major importance to the community. So that's all. I'm just trying to make sure that these dollars can go to things like that. If that's what the body, if that's what the agency or the opioid model wants to do. So just giving them more tools in the toolkit so that we know that they can do it.
So could the blight be put in another category to cover the, no?
No, through the chair to Ms. Pittman, myself and Ms. Stavropoulos yesterday kind of went through how would you make sure that blight removal is something that could be paid for if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think economic development is one of the only ones in the categories that it could do. If there was a catch-all provision, or we could say, or if the body has, different categories that they want to implement throughout the year, like that's fine too. Again, I just want to make sure that before we create this thing, that it has as many tools as possible to do things that I know members of the community have been talking about. But the last thing I want is to make sure that we have a bunch of seniors or people in the community who say, oh, I thought there was going to be opportunities for us to kind of fix up our properties or whatever else, and then they find out that they can't. Like, I just want to make sure that we know full well, because if affordable housing does not meet that category, let's make sure we put it in here.
Okay.
I totally agree with that. And although, the Phoenix Avenue will get a portion of that, I hear that from my constituents all the time, that, they want to make sure that they can fix up their house or fix up their business that's along the corridors, like the Phoenix East 21st area.
Okay. And let's go ahead and put 3 minutes on the clock just so we can make sure we're landing the plane right on time. And Councilmember Salem, are you on the Peluso amendment? Okay, go ahead. You're recognized.
It's very important to me that we see change on the east side. I think we all can agree with that. When I hear blight and I hear home repair, there are other programs that exist that can accomplish those goals. I want these dollars to go to entities, and I respectfully disagree with Councilmember Pittman, to organizations that can have a proven track record of making change, or else we're going to sit here 5 or 6 years from now and we're not going to see a real difference. These are taxpayer dollars. And we've got to ensure they go to organizations that can have a proven track record of doing what they say they're going to do. This is not money to do things that may make me or anyone here feel good, but aren't really what is intended by this program. So I won't support it. If we get into this program a year or two from now, I mean, there's always opportunities to make changes to legislation, but blight removal and home repairs are not those categories. Those categories were in the original CBA. We just pulled those over. And I wish the Jaguars could weigh in on this. I had discussions as early as today. I'm afraid if we go down this path, we're not going to see the changes that we want. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Stavropoulos, you were in the queue. If there's anything you need to add, go ahead.
Through the chair to the committee, I just want to reiterate kind of a statement I made to Councilmember Paluso when we discussed this amendment yesterday and some of his other thoughts, is that if the council over time identifies additional needs that don't fit within the framework of the 4 funded categories, the best approach, the one that would present the least amount of risk to the city, would be to ask the Jaguars to come back to the table to potentially add those changes or add that to a definition within the CBA. So if there's a desire to use these funds for some of these other types of initiatives, at the end of the day, it's the city's dollars. I don't know that the Jaguars would have an objection, but I think the least risky approach is to go back to them and say, let's update the CBA. We've done this. We've had 15 amendments to the old stadium agreement, as you know, so it's not unheard of that you go back and revisit these things as practice and time gives you additional information to work from. And so that would be the best approach, that if these additional needs are identified for use of these funds, you go back to the JAGs and have that discussion and negotiate a change to that CBA, and then you can modify the code to reflect that additional flexibility.
Okay. Ms. Pittman, I'm going to come back to you. For the second time, I'm going to go, and I'll go back to you, Councilmember Paluso. I just want to add, just 2 cents in here. I personally don't think blight removal is that far of a stretch with economic development. However, I think if you're doing economic development, that will also sort of take care of a lot of blight. So in my mind, a building that's blighted and nasty and whatever, economic development dollars goes to hopefully revamp and redo that whole building. Therefore, it's sort of accomplishing 2 things at once. But that being said, I understand this area needs extra attention. It needs extra dollars. So I'm sort of kind of struggling there. And then for the home repair, I guess to Ms. Stefopoulos or Mr. Peterson, on the substitute by neighborhoods, item number 3C, it says mitigation of homelessness, heirs properties, and home repairs. So what is the home repairs in this section referring to?
Through the chair to the chair. So that was an addition for a goal of additional qualifications that some of the board members could have. It's just a goal, it's not a requirement, and that there be some subject matter expertise that could be identified through some of the appointees to some of the seats. And they were looking at people, their last category was really to try to capture somebody in the realm of mitigation of homelessness, but to the extent that there's these other ancillary types of programs and initiatives that are related but not necessarily mitigation of homelessness, they wanted to make it a broad opportunity for that additional qualification for that goal to be met. So
okay, yeah. Sorry, I just kind of read it as a sub bullet point. Didn't read it as a committee member. It just stuck off the page to me. But and I know that we have other resources like for the home repair available as well. So that's sort of where my thought is at right now. I think, if anything, Councilmember Paluso, I think for the blight removal, that could maybe be like talked about with the JAGs or whatever for the first 1 or 2 years of the agreement. Going into the 7-year mark, I think it could be starting to take away resources from what the true model is actually trying to do. So those are my thoughts. I'll recognize Ms. Pittman and then Mr. Paluso, and then we can take a vote.
To the chair, just make a quick comment, is that some individuals, I know we said they have options to apply to other organizations when it comes to housing and repairs and all of that. A lot of them don't. Either they miss the threshold with some of those organizations to do repairs. There are some individuals, money have ran out when it's time. I mean, I'll take the roof initiative. And there's some seniors and people who lived over there for years just haven't had the resources, and they don't qualify for some of the other programs. I like what Ms. Swaps was talked. She just mentioned having an option, and I don't know if that would work for your part of the district and mine, but what I'm hearing in most of the meetings that I'm having is that a lot of them don't qualify or they've ran out of money. If there's an option where it's not a goal, but could be spent out of a certain category to help, because all of this money is for the east side. And I don't want to talk about what has happened to the north side, the broken promises that have happened. So if we're going to do this, I just want to do it right and be able to be very inclusive of the community that is needed.
That well said. I understand that. Councilmember Peluso, I guess you're the last speaker in the queue on your amendment right here.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, if you had told any of the members of the East Side community over this past 3 years that home repair was not going to be a part of it, you would have, this was 100% one of the things that was discussed with the community multiple times. Gentrification is only putting money into specific economic development portions, and then the money generated from that one area doesn't go to the rest of the community, and now they're priced out of their communities. One of the biggest concerns, the reason why the CBA exists is to help make sure that we are keeping people in their homes. And if we're going to allow for there to be development in certain areas and people can't fix up their homes because they don't have the capital to do it, some big company is going to come and offer them jack for their home, 50 grand, and they're going to sell it because they can't fix it. I'm beyond angry right now. This is quite literally what the CBA is supposed to be for. Again, if Councilmember Arias and I sat in a meeting where we specifically talked about different things that the community wants and how we make sure it gets done. I don't know how we went through 2 CBAs and for people to walk out thinking that some of these dollars weren't going to go to effectively social services and making sure that people can get a leg up in their communities. That's specifically what this is. There's $1 billion stadium being built next door. It's going to price people out. This is meant to keep people in their homes and to fix up the neighborhood and to make sure that those that own current land on commercial areas have the capital to build something so that they can provide generational wealth for their families. That's what this is. What are we talking about here? This is not at all what was intended. And so I was trying to make sure that it's available as an option for the CBA board to have. But to hear that there are people's mindsets that it was never going to go to those things, you haven't been paying attention to what the CBA was. And certainly the Jaguars, I think, would comment on that and at the very least understand that pushing back against gentrification was one of the main purposes. This is horribly disturbing. This needs, at this point, the work of the CBA is going to be undone if we're not going to allow for people to be able to fix their homes with these dollars. There's a lot of seniors that expected that. A lot of families that expected that. So please vote this up.
All right. We have no one else in the queue. Ms. Stefopoulos, this is sort of counterintuitive to your stance, so to speak, but if we wanted to allow these items as economic development, by definition or whatever, could we allow it for years 1 and 2 only, so to speak? Could we say years 1 and 2, these are allowable, beyond that, it's not?
To the chair, so ultimately, what it boils down to is the supplemental CBA says economic development.
Yeah, I know, we're gonna...
So if the council chooses to define that in a way that hyperextends what that definition, what that word those words mean, what I am saying to you is that you're putting yourselves at risk under the community benefits agreement with the Jaguars, that we've gone beyond the scope of what was agreed upon with that entity when we executed the contract. At the end of the day, it's a policy decision of the council. I'm just here to give you guidance with respect to the risks and rewards with those policy decisions that you make.
Understood.
Again, the least risky approach would be to go back and talk to the Jags about reopening the CBA to address what does economic development mean, because that wasn't defined in there like some of the other terms were that we carried over.
I get that. Okay. We'll go, 1 minute each, Councilmember Pittman and then Councilmember Peluso, 1 minute each. Go ahead. You're recognized. Yes, ma'am.
To the chair, I cannot imagine the Jaguars not supporting this because that's what they do. And at the time when we developed this, we had not had an opportunity to meet with the community. And so now we've had that opportunity, and as a council member on the east side of the east side, I know what matters to the residents, and that's why I'm speaking on behalf of it. Some of you all have not lived in those communities. I have. I have relatives that live in the east side. And so I just don't think the Jaguars will have a problem with that because that's what they do. They pour back into the community, and they don't want a new facility there not supporting the people who live there and bringing new businesses. I just can't, in my mind, think that they would not support it.
Got it. All right. And Council Member Arias, you are next on the queue, and then we'll go to Councilmember Peluso. 1 minute each. We're all on.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll be quick. I definitely hear the concerns, and I want to support this. It goes back to economic development driver. That's my biggest thing. I don't want to take away from that. Here's the thing. We have ERP programs, LRP programs. We have CBDG dollars here in Jacksonville. We have so many different ways for these fundings to get sent to that community. Just looking at, different programs that are from the north side, the east side to restore repair programs like HVAC for emergency needed services. My point is we have so many different options that are you seeing an uptick in your community right now? Because what I would like to do is I would like to see from Travis Jeffries maybe report on us to see really if there's a high demand. I'm pretty sure there's the demand. Is it high enough where we need to take money away from economic development? I agree with you. We have over $40 million in the next 7 years that are going to be invested to the east side. I want them to get as much benefit as possible. If this is a way, fine, but maybe we could find a different route to get them what you're trying to achieve. That's my point. Thank you.
Councilmember Salem, are you on the discussion? Okay, you're recognized.
My recommendation is we pass the agreement as it is today with the Standard Division of Economic Development. I will work with Councilman Peluso or anyone to go see the Jaguars and see if they're open and we can modify the CBA. The CBA says economic development. So I think that's where we need to stay. We're never going to get this thing passed. And we want to get the money out there. So let's move this forward and have further discussions after Tuesday night. That would be my thought, and I'll be happy to participate in those. But that's not where it's defined today. And that's what we have. We got to deal with facts. We got to deal with facts. If people were pushing home repair and it wasn't in the agreement, well, maybe we shouldn't have been doing that. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Peluso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. To the first thing that was brought up, there are a number of programs. Those programs have waiting lists down to Ms. Pittman, how long have people been on those waiting lists? And also it's a lot of federal dollars that have a ton of strings attached. Like it's yet another reason why these programs could be huge because it's locally controlled and we can make sure the dollars actually go to the work that needs to get done. The LRTP list, or I'm sorry, the home repair list, that could be done on 7 blocks alone in the east side, let alone the entirety of the city. I mean, those programs are so overburdened. To the point, I would say the opposite of what you said, Councilmember Salem. Let's vote this up today, get it to council night, and we can get the Jaguars there, and I'm sure they'll say absolutely fine. I don't care which category it's in. I just want to make sure it's available to us in one of the categories. If it's homelessness, if it's affordable housing, I don't care. I just want to make sure it's built in and available. That's my concern, is year one for us to learn, oh, this isn't really available, and now we got to wait a whole year. Like, no, let's get this thing done right immediately. That's what was the expectation.
All right, so we have no other speakers in the queue. Kind of where I'm landing on this, and we can do a hand vote on this because it might be, somewhat of a close vote. Look, at the end of the day, I think this is going to do a lot of good. This amendment is. Can we split hairs over what's the definition? Are the Jags good with it? Are they not good with it? it's a policy decision. I'm fine with it. I'm not gonna argue the district council members who have had thousands of hours of conversations with their people on this. Obviously, there's other programs in place, but guess what? They obviously haven't done enough because they're still behind. So I get that there's other programs, but the reason the East Side is getting extra dollars is because they need extra dollars. So if they need extra dollars for blight and home repair and all this stuff, I'm not gonna fight them on it. I'm good with it. So sure, Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
We have a written agreement with the Jaguars. Someone can't come Tuesday night and say it's okay. The agreement needs to be modified. Okay? So we want to defer this whole agreement? They're at the Super Bowl. They're not getting back till late next week. I spoke to them this morning. Okay? I think it'd be tragic not to move this bill. Have further discussions afterwards. You got to change the agreement. It's a written agreement. It's got to go through legal. We just can't go with verbal approvals. Thank you.
I will ask Mary, is that actually true? Because if it's a policy decision, then tell me what that means.
To the chair, so as I indicated previously, at the end of the day, if the council wants to make a policy decision on how it would like to define economic development, it can do so. But it's putting the city at risk of challenge under the contract with the Jaguars, absent a modification to that contract, which should be in writing. And we're not clear on whether the Jaguars would establish that it has to go back to the NFL to change it. I don't know if that's what would trigger the need to send it back to the NFL or not.
Okay, so let's do this because we're getting into a lot of hypotheticals. We're getting into a lot of litigating this on the dais. Councilmember Peluso, if we can you get some type of indication from the Jags because this is going to be a mess outside of committee on the council floor. I don't want that. You don't want that. Can you take that on and get some type of indication from them, and then we can look at what this is going to actually look like?
Through the chair, I believe so. I don't think that it's going to, like, I spoke with the Jaguars yesterday as well. so they were like, okay, whatever, man. Like they were pretty open to, we just want this thing to pass. Like, just get it done. So okay. There didn't seem to be haranguing, and they're the only other person in this contract, so they would have to be the ones to openly say, like, you're not doing what we said. And I don't think they're going to do that, especially if it provides something that the Eastsiders have said they wanted from day.
Okay, understood. So, Ms. Stefopoulos, if we got something in writing from the Jags that says we are comfortable with this definition of blah, 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 do we even have to do a contract amendment? If they say it doesn't have to go back to the NFL, they say they're comfortable with it, they would be the quote-unquote harmed, damaged party in this, hypothetical situation. Is that going to be enough to suffice for...
Legally, you need a fully executed amendment.
Yeah, legally, if they take us to court.
For it to be legally binding.
Okay.
And don't forget, the administration would have to be involved in that as well. The administration is who negotiates and executes the contracts.
Okay. So we're gonna defer this amendment so that we can get some type of clarity. Yeah, it is a thing. So we're gonna table the amendment because we don't have anything in writing from the Jags. Apparently that's what's needed. So with that...
Mr. Chair, I would recommend you don't traditionally table an amendment. You would either vote on it and vote it up or down, or have it be withdrawn by the introducer and the seconder with no objections.
I think it needs to be withdrawn. Ms. Pittman.
It was introduced by Ms. Pittman and seconded by Mr. Arias.
You either withdraw or it gets voted up or down.
Well, you don't give much of a choice, do you? So,
well, that's a better choice than it was 3 minutes ago.
I'd rather get something in writing from the Jaguars. So I will withdraw and wait till we get something from them, and then bring it on Tuesday night as an amendment.
Okay. All right. I think that's the right move. If you have something in writing, Councilmember Peluso, that I feel comfortable with, I'll be supportive of it. I'll say that on the record. And so it's been withdrawn. Do we have to get a second on it, or it's done?
If it was withdrawn by the introducer and there's no objection from the seconder or the committee, then you're fine. It's withdrawn.
Okay, we are withdrawing Peluso Amendment number 1. Mr. Peluso, how many other ideas do you have for us here today?
Dozens. No, through the chair, I just have one more that I just want to make sure. To the point that I brought up earlier, that land can be deemed as an asset available when going up for a capital grant. So the value of the land could be, this is how much money I have. Because if somebody only has land and doesn't really have a ton of capital on hand, I want them to be able to use that land as capital. That's my amendment.
Okay, so Councilmember Peluso, can you restate it? And then if there's someone that wants to introduce that motion, that's fine.
So under a capital grant, you need to have some available dollars in order to get, I think it was what, you have 25% of the total cost of the project?
We're looking to make sure that that's correct.
Okay.
I don't know that.
Blame my last. Maybe we just keep going.
Through the chair to the committee, so with respect to the requirements for applying for a grant, the only thing we see in here is that the organization's appropriation request cannot exceed in the aggregate 50% of their annual revenue averaged over the previous 2 tax/fiscal years. That doesn't differentiate programmatic or operational requests versus capital requests. And I don't know how you would consider land as part of a revenue. But there's nothing with respect to matching for capital dollars. So we just need a better clarification on how this scenario would play out or what you're trying to address.
I guess, to the chair, can I ask if land could be utilized as a match rather than?
There is no requirement for a match currently. So why, if you don't need a match, we're trying
I'm just trying to, again, accommodate the people who live in the community. What way, rather than saying that we can't do it, what way can we say, yes, you can use your land to qualify for a capital grant? I mean, just because it hasn't been done before, it doesn't mean that it can't be done. I'm just trying to find out, for the people who live in that district that may not have the money, what can we do to make sure they can use their land as a match or a capital part of what we're doing? I'm just asking the question.
Through the chair to Councilmember Pittman, as I indicated, there is no requirement for a match. But I think what can be done is, if you want to revise that provision with respect to the 50% annual revenue, you would not apply that to capital projects. So they're not.
Give me the language of what we need to do.
They're not going to be showing an annual revenue with respect to. It makes sense 50%, can't be more than 50% for programmatic or operating, but for capital, maybe you don't require that they have to show that they have 50% of an annual revenue for a capital project. That would be a decision to be discussed. If you wanted to require that they show some form of collateral or have some other aspect that they would put forward as for consideration on a capital project. But there's currently no requirement for a match.
Okay. Or collateral. You all are the legal folks. What we're trying to do is to make it happen for these people who live in the community. And I'm passionate. It's kind of like we're begging at your mercy for what is deserved for these people. Just because it doesn't exist doesn't mean that we can't make it happen. You can have 2 different options: 50% that you just mentioned, or you use your land.
Through the chair, no, I think what my concern was, Ms. Pittman, is perfectly fine now. It's been settled, and they don't need to have a match of any kind. They don't need to show that they're good. This is what I intended.
But what I'm saying is, not everybody might have money.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right, so sort of confused where we're at here, but
through the chair,
are you good, Councilmember Peluso? You don't need an amendment. Okay, all right, so we are good to go. He is sufficed. There's no motion that he's asking for. All right, motion and a second on the bill as substituted. Councilmember Diamond, did you want to speak on the whole thing? Did you have an amendment for us?
Look, I'm against the CBA entirely. I was against it during the entire process, during the negotiation. I think it's just a giveaway, taking money out of the pockets of the hardworking people in my district and handing it to somebody else, and I'm fully against that. I do think, and I want to thank my colleague, Mr. Salem, Dr. Salem, for dramatically improving the distribution method, because, look, I think it was going to be an absolute fraud if it had gone the way it was. Now it's just going to be as bad as like a Minnesota-style fraud. It's just going to be terrible, whatever happens. And I think this is going to be awful. I think we should put money aside for the prosecutions that are going to happen for how much money is going to go missing out of all of this. So I think this is terrible. I'm a no, but I appreciate you making it better. Thank you.
All right, so is that a soft no from Councilmember Diamond, or was that a hard no? All right, we have everything we need. Open the ballot, record your votes.
Five yeas, one nay.
All right, by your action, you have approved 2026-0036 as substituted. Item number 15, 2026-0038. Do we have a second? Motion and second to withdraw. Open the ballot, record your vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0038. Item number 16, we already took up. Item number 17, we already took up. Item number 18, 2026-0042. Motion and second on the bill. No discussion. Open the ballot, record your vote.
Six yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0042. Item number 19, 2026-0043. Motion second on the bill. No discussion. Open the ballot, record your vote.
Five yeas, 1 nay.
By your action, you've approved 2026-0043. Items number 2026-0064, 65, and 81 are all on second reading. If there's no other discussion, this meeting is adjourned.